Okay, hello everyone. I am Michael Clark, the co-founder of Clark+Meyler, and I'm here with my main man, Max Cammarota, who heads up our paid social media team at BCM. Max leads a team that works with both B2B and B2C marketers. And I know, Max, I've been reading a lot lately about changes that are impacting one of, I think, and you can, tell me, but I think it's one of the key tactics being used by performance-based marketers, and that is custom audiences on Facebook. But I keep hearing about, with all these changes in the environment, that marketers need to start paying attention to what's happening here. But I thought, Max, that maybe we could just talk and start by maybe you can share with the audience, what are custom audiences and why are custom audiences a preferred tactic for performance-based marketers?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. So custom audiences are basically groupings of people that have interacted with your business in some capacity. It could be offline activity, it could be online activity. It could be through your Facebook page, your Instagram page, your website, any email list that you come across through your CRM systems, anything like that. And they've really been effective in the past because you're able to use them for a lot of things. They're very versatile. One being retargeting customers, maybe you're cross-selling, upselling, anything like that. You could be retargeting people who are very low in the funnel, like someone who would add to cart but hasn't purchased. You could also use them for excluding existing customers so that you're not wasting any ad spend. And then lookalike data modeling, which is basically when you go tell Facebook to look for new users in Facebook that have similar traits to your audience list. So for us, typically our custom audiences are bread and butter. And they have been for quite some time until some recent changes caused by Apple iOS through Facebook.
And when you say bread and butter, Max, I assume you're talking about the either conversion rates or response rates or just kind of productivity of media associated with custom audiences?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. So, you just touched on it, some of the changes that are happening with Apple iOS updates. So what's been happening there and how have those changes impacted custom audiences, one of our bread and butter tactics?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of news surrounding this, but essentially the Apple iOS 14 update requires the iOS users to opt into allowing apps, including Facebook, to track their activity across other companies' apps and websites. And by opting out, these users aren't able to be grouped into any custom audiences via the Facebook Pixel or the SDK app tracking, which are probably the most commonly used custom audience sources. There's multiple other implications that the Apple iOS 14 updates have on Facebook and other paid social platforms, including like targeting, attribution, any type of tracking, and that could probably use a whole nother video. But simply put, when we're looking at custom audiences specifically, your audience that would be shown in the red boxes here are being affected by iOS users, and it will probably get worse as other operating systems follows Apple's privacy stance. But then you have your Facebook sources and your first-party data for customer lists that will remain safe and stable for now. So you can always...
So you mentioned the first party list. So are you talking about maybe records or contacts within your CRM system?
Yeah, exactly. So these are identifiers such as first, last name, email, phone numbers, address, things like that, where you're able to have that concrete data to tie back into Facebook's database instead of just relying on your mobile ID or your IDFA, which is what's being impacted by Apple iOS 14.
So given these changes by Apple, what are some of the implications, or maybe I should say, what's been the impact on some of the programs that your team is managing and, some of our advertisers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll throw some stats at you first. But when we took a look internally into BCM's media delivery through Facebook, iOS users on average make up 50 to 70% of our Facebook delivery. And according to developertech.com and multiple other sources, 96% of iOS users have opted out of Facebook app tracking. This is a huge number we're talking about, and it means that large percentages of website pixel-based audiences, SDK app-based audiences, and many other third-party data audience lists are now a fraction of their original size. So this impacts a lot of things that we're using for custom audiences. Like I said, this is impacting retargeting. It's impacting our exclusion audiences. Now we're modeling our lookalike data based off of mostly Android and desktop users. So our audience lists are pretty much incomplete, and they're only representing a fraction of the total audience that you're looking to go after. So now we kind of have to look more in depth into on Facebook sources and definitely first-party data. I know, we've been as an agency pushing first-party data for quite some time, and it's always had, a high level of importance, but you're starting to see, if you don't have that first-party data now, that it's becoming even more important. And like we said, this is emails, phone numbers, first and last name, addresses, anything that's captured through the CRM system. And then for on Facebook activity, this is anything that occurs within the app without leaving the app. So these can be video interactions, lead gen forms, instant experiences, page interactions, and there's been quite a few different offerings that have surfaced through Facebook, especially as of recent.
Right, so it sounds like Facebook has been scrambling to take some action here to maintain the efficacy of their marketing and advertising dollars that's being heavily invested into their business.
Right.
And I'm sure, many of our clients are starting to see, parts of their programs degrade. I would imagine that retargeting is one that's, probably suffering the most at this point. Are you guys seeing that with the clients you're working with, Max?
Absolutely. So some of the impacts there, since the audience sizes are reducing because we're unable to match back the full audience sizes, we're starting to see our retargeting spend decrease quite substantially, and then the cost is also increasing because there's lower inventory. So retargeting is definitely being impacted.
Yeah. So, given this, and I'm sure the number one question your team is getting from our clients is, what should we do? So, what are the practical things that you and your team are advising our clients as they're, seeing impacts of this change on, directly on the performance of their programs and their campaigns?
From a high level, it would be to start focusing on first-party data and on Facebook activity sourced custom audiences. So breaking that down, number one is simple. This could probably be done by many advertisers right now, and that's to start to use your on Facebook activity to retarget, exclude, and model your data. It can be with things that you're already tracking and might not be utilizing yet. So this could be like ad clicks, watching a certain percentage of a video, page likes or page visits, things that are already being captured, but obviously it was less relied on in the past. Number two, I think just overall start thinking about, at the very least, ways to incorporate your on Facebook activity into your overall marketing scheme. I think for commerce clients, this is something like selling through Facebook and Instagram shops, moving towards instant experiences instead of landing pages. If you're a high consideration product or service, you might want to look at things like lead gen forms. Basically, you want to have more of your sales funnel onto Facebook than it ever was in the past. And this will help you with things like custom audiences. This will help you with things like attribution and tracking. Because when it's on Facebook, it's able to be tracked 100%.
Okay, and that was my question. By moving some of that conversion path, which has historically been on the client's website, we're moving at least the front part of that experience into Facebook, or having them host it. And because of that, you're able to capture what you're calling on Facebook activity, and then you can custom audience off of that, right?
Exactly, yeah. And we're urging a lot of clients to look at that. I think we've definitely have been running lead gen ads for quite some time. Facebook also recently, bolstered that offering and made it a little bit more robust. But things like instant experiences, which are basically a landing page that occurs on Facebook, those have become a lot more customizable and creative, so that you can start to give that landing page experience within the app, and it's very fast loading. It's frictionless. It's definitely a great offering and something to look at.
Now that's kind of interesting, because I know many clients struggle with conversion rate optimization, landing page testing. So I'm imagining that this type of hosting on Facebook may help reduce friction, as you mentioned, and potentially improve conversion rate. Are we seeing that in some of our early tests of this type of method?
Yeah, absolutely. And the lead gen forms are a great example of that, because when you open the lead gen form, all of your information is populating and you don't even have to leave the site. So we see conversion rates increase substantially when we're using these opposed to forms on the website themselves. It also allows you a little bit more flexibility in customizing that experience, where sometimes changing certain web pages or having your agency change your website is a little bit more difficult of a task versus doing it through Facebook.
Yeah, and I think what you mentioned about CRM, it's interesting. CRM has been pretty much thought of as an email tool throughout history, and now it's becoming more central to just advertising and media, not only within Facebook, but also potentially in things like OTT or data-driven audiences within targeted video. It's almost that media people now need to become CRM experts. So how has that been for your team in terms of kind of interacting with CRM systems and trying to connect the plumbing between a CRM system and Facebook media? Is that a heavy lift for your team or for clients, or how has that been working out?
No, actually, it's not much of a heavy lift. Facebook has made it very easy to connect and integrate to these systems. It doesn't matter if you're using a Salesforce, a massive CRM, or some smaller, example. Facebook basically integrates into everything, even things like Zapier, which are a lot smaller. And
Sure.
We've definitely relied on it pretty heavily, especially for our retargeting and exclusions, to integrate into Facebook and have audiences upload regularly on a hourly, daily basis, so that we have fresh audiences that we're retargeting, excluding, and even modeling data off of.
Right. Well, that's great. So I think you've given us a couple of good practical things to do. And, given, I think where the advertising environment is going, which is privacy first, consumer control over their own data. If I were to ask you to give us a more non-practical, wild prediction about, this whole topic of how, whether it be custom audiences and or maybe even more broadly, the impact of privacy initiatives on certainly Facebook's ability to continue to drive high returns for advertising dollars. Like, what might be a wild prediction that you might make about this topic?
My prediction's that Facebook's going to start trying to bring everything onto platform as much as they can. I think next year and the following years, you're going to see a lot more products being produced that are relative to on Facebook experiences or integrations to try and tie your website or your overall sales process more into Facebook. And they've already have been doing that, right? So we talked about lead gen forms. They're evolving into different storefronts, Instagram shoppable, and I think the biggest move that I've seen has been Instagram checkout, which is a full funnel shopping experience within Instagram. So you're not only viewing the product, adding to cart, but you're also putting in your payment and shipping information to complete a transaction without even leaving the app. And I think that is just going to become more and more standard, especially because putting your card into apps is now a more common thing. And I think Facebook and Instagram having that scale and the reliance of so many small businesses on Facebook to drive their advertising, they're probably going to be among the top 5 or top 10 e-commerce sites in the next 5 to 10 years. So that's my bold prediction.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. Facebook they have everything else about you. So if they have your credit card information, it will reduce a lot of the friction in purchasing. And I can definitely see that as, something that will help some advertisers. But I know that marketers and advertisers are always worried about this idea of losing control of the customer or owning the customer relationship.
Right.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think some of this exporting the conversion process to some of these media platforms, do you think that topic will be raising its head again? Definitely.
I think it's a scary idea, right? Because you have control over all of these different things through your website, through your sales process. But I think that if you're not leading the charge, you're going to be behind because, like I said, so many businesses, large and small, rely on Facebook advertising. Full integrations, or at least majority integrations into your overall sales process will be necessary, and it will give you a very large advantage, especially with tracking and attribution, because we know that's slowly going away. But if you're able to attribute specific actions within the app, it's almost 100% trackable.
Right. And I think that's what most advertisers are looking for.
Right.
Great. Well, Max, thank you so much for educating us about custom audiences and the impact on that with the Apple iOS situation. You can see Max's contact information below. As always, thank you for checking in with us and watching. Please hit subscribe. And if you're interested in receiving further insights on performance marketing topics, you can go to our website at bbclarkmeyler.com and sign up for our CRM system. But we'll take it easy on you on the targeting. Thanks, Max. Great chatting with you, and we'll see you soon.